Because I know it's
Definitely
a
not.
Desi family, right? Pakistani family. So what was their reaction when you said, I'm going to travel the world?
Ooh, that one was not a good one. So thankfully I didn't live at home.
You've experienced a lot of cultures. What was that one trip that totally changed your perspective?
So when I was 18, so I finished my first year of college and I decided to move to Madrid, Spain to become an au pair.
Are there any apps that you would recommend for people who are traveling, or any tips that you have?
I would say maps.me, which is a map app that you can download in advance. So it's offline. Or ever post live location
Oh my
on
God,
social
I agree.
media.
Especially where you're staying, your hotel.
Yes.
If you love traveling, you are going to love today's guest. She's a travel content creator. She's the founder of Dose of Travel Club. She's a pharmacist. Let's welcome Nabila to the show. Hi, Nabila. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. I'm so excited and I have so many questions because travel content creation is something that I'm kind of leaning towards and I'm so passionate about it and I can't wait to hear your story. But to start off, can you tell us where you're from, a little bit about your family and how you started this?
Yeah, of course. So I'm originally from New York, born and raised. I've come to Dubai to trial run and see if it's a place I want to call home, which so far it's sounding like a yes. I'm Pakistani by ethnicity. So I grew up in New York, went to pharmacy school, and then not too long ago, I took the plunge and quit my job to travel the world and became a content creator. So that's kind of where I'm at.
What was that one point where you realized you're like, I want to do this?
Yeah, I feel like that's there's a lot of different things that go into it. So I've always loved travel. I started traveling alone when I was 18. So all throughout undergrad to grad, I was traveling any moment I could get. But I think after COVID, being in healthcare, I was really burnt out.
Yes.
And was just really excited to go have some time. And when the world opened back up, I was like, okay, I want to go travel. But in actuality, I found a journal of mine and I had written that after 3 years of school and working, I would quit my job to travel the world and kind of enjoy the fruits of my labor. After going to school for 7 years, getting a doctorate, and then being in full-on healthcare for 3+ years. And so that's kind of what happened. I found that journal and I was like, oh, I'm feeling burnt out now. I don't really feel like this job is really for me anymore. And things are kind of picking up. I'm making some money, I'm growing my following. And so I found that journal and it was just 3 weeks before my 28th birthday. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. And then just like that, I did it.
I love it. What was your family's reaction when you did that? Were they supportive or because I know it's a Desi family, right? Pakistani family. So what was their reaction when you said, I'm going to travel the world?
Ooh, that one was not a good one. So thankfully I didn't live at home. They were in New York and I was living in California at the time.
All right.
So opposite ends of the country. And so I told them over the phone, which kind of helped because I wasn't there in person. God. Told them over the phone and they were like, what did you do? Go ask for your job back. This is a great job, dream job.
Exactly.
Go ask for your job back. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I literally sat on it. It was so uncomfortable for those 2 weeks after I put in that notice because I was like, wait, this is a really good job.
Or maybe I'm doing something wrong. You start to doubt yourself when someone else tells you, right?
Exactly.
And you get scared.
And then people would come up and tell me things like, oh, they did that and how they failed, or different stories. And I was like, oh my God, I'm panicking. Or everyone kept talking about the recession. They're like, who quits their job during a recession? I was like, what do you mean? But after a while, after I went, left, they were quite supportive. I feel like they came around to it. Obviously, they would still prefer that I have a normal lifestyle that they also understand.
Exactly.
This whole thing is very
They're just
new.
What content, what social media? That's not a job. That's still the mindset that they have, Because in their time, it was different.
Totally. But I think it's still very new as an industry across the board. I've noticed it, and I'm sure you also notice it in terms of how to price it, how to get paid, how to do all of these things. There are so many things that people don't understand yet.
Exactly.
And so they definitely don't get it then.
Exactly. It's like a trial and error journey. And if you think about our parents till now, they've been working their full-time jobs. I'm sure your dad as well. So they wouldn't even switch around their jobs that often because there's that they didn't want to take that risk factor. But I think with Gen Z, millennials, sort of like we take that risk as well.
Yes,
which I'm
exactly.
loving. Gen Z especially, they're just like, we work in one company for a year. Okay, we're done. We're leaving.
They inspire me because I'm a millennial technically. So they inspire me and I'm like, this is the energy I want.
Yeah, exactly. So for someone who wants to start travel content creation, because it sounds like a dream. I'm sure it has its struggles as well. It has its downside. But for someone who wants to start, someone living in a Desi family, what would be your steps or guide to starting? Like, how do you convince your parents? Because even even when you're 30, you need to like sort of convince them. What are your tips?
No, that's difficult because I feel like maybe don't take this advice, but sometimes it's better not to convince them or ask for permission.
Just do it.
Just do it. Okay. Because you're right. Like, you're almost 30. Like, at some point, you kind of just have to go do what you want to do.
That's true.
But I think we are not so risk averse, and I never have been really. So me quitting my job and making those career pivots leading up to it was kind of a big deal and the scariest thing I've ever done. But I think it's a juggling, being like a calculated risk. So making sure that you have like your plan A, your plan B,
savings and all of that.
Exactly. And kind of knowing like, okay, if this doesn't work out, what will you do? And knowing like having a plan. I think that helps like your psyche a little bit too. And so that is my biggest tip is like, do small steps. Like maybe don't quit your job if you have never posted on Instagram or anything before, but like do it while you're working. See if you actually like it. See if it makes sense for you, it fits your lifestyle, and then small steps from there.
Okay. So I totally agree with that because, there's that people romanticize leaving a job, quitting a job. I quit my job. I did this. Like it doesn't always work out. So it's always best to have that safety net. Try something. I'm sure maybe you started your account while you had your job or you started it after.
So I started my account way back, but actually I didn't quit my job to become a creator or content creator or influencer. I quit my job because travel was my dream. And so I had actually already saved everything because I think subconsciously I knew that I wanted to quit my job after 3 years and I wanted to travel. Like that is what I always save up for. Like the newest iPhone, forget about it. Like I'd rather save for my trip. And so that's the difference. I didn't quit to become a creator. I quit to go follow my dreams. And then because I was doing something I was passionate about, I think I was able to post about it and it kind of turned into something.
Yeah, that creator sort of kicked in, while you were there, you're like, oh, that place is beautiful. Then you started making reels, TikToks, all of that. That's how I found out about you. I saw one of your TikToks and I'm like, oh my God, I love your content. And then when you came to Dubai, I'm like, we need to have this chat,
get
to know a little bit about it. It's so crazy because social media is very powerful. Like how would I know you if there was no social media? It's crazy.
I was still surprised when you reached out. I was like, wait, I have people like who follow me from Dubai. Like I haven't been to Dubai in like 15 years before this.
Exactly. So. You have like people following you from all around the world.
Yeah, it is kind of wild. I actually just checked yesterday and now Dubai is one of my top cities on Instagram. And I was like, I've only been here like a month.
Love that. Okay. Instagram is doing its thing.
Yeah.
So you've visited a lot of countries. You've experienced a lot of cultures. What was that one trip that totally changed your perspective?
Oh, that is such a tough question. I think I have to start with my first ever solo trip because that's kind of what led me to traveling for like ever, basically. So when I was 18, so I finished my first year of college and I decided to move to Madrid, Spain to become an au pair. An au pair is like a nanny, a live-in nanny. And I don't know how this like kind of dawned upon me, but I didn't have a lot of money. So I wanted to find a job / fun way to enjoy my summer, aka I moved out and I did not want to go back home to my parents after living away.
So you're like, I'd rather take care of kids.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm going to Spain. I already know some Spanish. Maybe I can improve Spanish. That's a good skill to have on your resume. And I get to travel and I get paid for it. So that's what I did. And when I went, I was just so inspired because I met all these other au pairs, all these other solo travelers who had been doing this or on a backpacking trip. And I was like, oh, wait, this is what people do. Like,
it's like a possibility.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, you can make a living out of it.
And it sounds so fun. And so I was like, oh, okay, I feel comfortable. I actually don't mind being in another country where I don't speak the language. Like I love travel and I want to keep doing this. And so that was a trip that like, okay, I'm going to work every school year to save up and go either find a job abroad or save to like travel. And that's kind of what changed. Every summer of college and grad school, every winter break, every spring break, I was traveling.
Wow, you're like very, very passionate about it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you started your content creation, because that's something people relate to. So you're not just creating content for the sake of it. You're actually genuinely passionate about it, which is why maybe you can see yourself doing that long term.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because then when I started, like, that was 10, 11 years ago. So social media and influencers were like very limited to like the top people. And it just wasn't a possibility. It was more of like a travel diary for me, to be honest.
Nice. Did you ever feel burnt out? Like, because you've been doing this for like almost 10 years now. Is there a point where you're just like, I'm done, or you keep doing it because you love it?
To be honest, I didn't feel that burnout up until like I quit my job and kind of until things started to pick up, I would say. But when I was traveling and working in school, it was just for fun. Like I only did it when I had time, and it was just passion driven, and I wasn't relying on it for income or anything else. It was more so even a way to communicate with my parents and friends like back home, like, hey, this is what I did today. So there was no pressure or burnout then. But I would say maybe in the last 6 months, when my sabbatical, if you could call it that, ended, and I was like, oh, am I going back to healthcare, or am I going fully in on this? And that's when there was like, pressure and burnout, because I'm like, oh, I should be posting every day. I need to like keep doing it, because then it became like my job, or I started treating it as such. And so it was just really recently, to be honest.
Okay. But you are like still passionate about the content creation side, or you're still sort of deciding?
Oh no, I'm like, I will always be excited about content creation. That's good. Whether I do it full time or on the side, it depends. Now I would say my focus is my travel club that I've started.
Yes.
So that is a community for mainly South Asians, but people of color and anyone, to travel around the world together to find like-minded people, feel like you have a safe and inclusive environment. And so that's been like my bread and butter. Like that is something I'm so passionate about, because it's a direct manifestation from traveling. But that also still has a content creation component to it. So it'll always be there.
All right. So that's the Dose of Travel Club that you have. You founded it, I think, a year ago?
Yeah.
And you do like group trips around the world. What's the process behind that? Do you actually visit the destinations, find the people, organize itineraries, and then sell that package to people? And how has the response been?
Yeah. So I call it a travel club because we have like a community online, so you can also make your own trips. Like you can meet people, talk to them. If you're like going to, I don't know, if you're going to New York for the weekend, you're like, hey, is anyone in New York? Let's meet up. But then I also organize trips like from scratch. So I have a Pakistan trip coming up. I did an Iraq trip because I went to Iraq in 2022 by myself, and I feel like people were so intrigued, and so I was like, let me host one.
It's unique.
Yeah. And then I also do trips where I haven't gone there yet, but you're like, come with me and we can go explore this new place. That's how the Bali trip went. I had never gone to Bali, but I was like, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to Bali. If anyone wants to come, you're more than welcome.
That's insane. That's how it all started.
Yeah.
And you went to Pakistan. So before you organized this trip, you were there. And I think that's one of the TikToks that I saw. And I'm like, wow, it looks so beautiful. Yeah. You traveled to Pakistan alone in the north. How was that like? Like, how was that trip special from your other trips?
It was one of my favorite trips because obviously I'm Pakistani.
Exactly.
But I haven't gone since I was a kid. So it'd been 10 years since I'd gone, and I'd never gone to the north. Nobody in my family has gone to the north. Like, we're from the south, from Karachi. So every time I go, we only go for family.
Exactly.
And I only
stay in Karachi.
Exactly. And I love Karachi, especially the food. But like, I want to see the mountains and like be a tourist in like my parents' country. And this time I went alone without them. So it was a different experience, because I went to go see like my family, but it's their family, and they weren't there. So I was forced to like have conversations with them, use my Urdu, because normally they would just speak to my mom because it's like their daughter, right?
What's your Urdu like? Like, what level would you say? Beginner, intermediate?
Honestly, I would say intermediate. I can fully understand it, but obviously I have an accent, and everyone likes to make fun of me, and I don't know the slang there, so you can tell I'm not from there.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
But I can get by, which is why I felt confident to go there in the first place.
No language barrier.
Yeah, exactly. And then the north kind of, I was like, I'm there. I'm going to go. I have time off now.
Exactly. It's perfect.
And so I hired a guide and a driver to take me because, I'm not going to drive on those scary roads.
Of course. They're so narrow. They're like on the side of the mountain.
Terrifying.
It's so scary. And then there's like a river right under it. So
yes. But it was my favorite trip. It was like a good mix of adventure, like healing, culture, like identity. It helped me really just, hash out a lot of things that I hadn't thought about or figured out. I loved being able to like feel comfortable wearing like my shawar kameez or speaking Urdu and like having just everything that like my food, like if I missed my mom's food, I was able to get it.
Exactly.
It
Desi
was
food.
Exactly. Desi food is so good. So it was a really good trip. Which is why I wanted to offer it, because there are so many other people like me, especially of the diaspora, who don't like have not gone back to Pakistan and seen Pakistan in like a tourist way.
Exactly. I think that's so important to connect with your roots as well.
Yeah, no, totally. So that's kind of what inspired that. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. So I've been to, like, I'm from Islamabad. I've never been to Karachi. Can you imagine? It's so close, but I haven't been. But I did go to Naran Karan, which is also in the north, and it's so beautiful. And when I see videos of Hunza, I've never been. So I'm like, Hunza is on my list for 2024 for sure.
You should just come on a group trip with me.
Yeah. So what all cities are you guys going to?
We fly into Islamabad and then we'll do Hunza. It's mainly just like, because we're hiking a lot. So we're doing Hunza and then, have you heard of Fairy Meadows?
Yes. It's the like a camp area, right?
Yeah. So it's a hike. It's like a terrifying drive on the road, and then it's a 2-hour hike, and then we'll camp there in like huts. So it's mainly just focused on Hunza. And then Islamabad.
Okay. And another thing I wanted to ask you was, how does traveling affect your personality or your life? Because if you're always on the go, you can't have those friendships, like, meet your friends all the time, or like relationships or anything like that. How does that affect your personality and your relationships? Yeah,
I would say that I'm really lucky that I have really great friends who understand like my quest for travel.
Yeah.
But they're also really love travel. And if I wasn't living in New York, all of my friends have moved out anyways. They live all over the world.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have them together with me anyways.
That's true.
And so we always meet up like in a new country or something like that. But I think the other part is I make so many friends, like lifelong friends too, while traveling. And so I always feel like I have someone. Like here in Dubai, I have a good friend. And then I met a friend when I was traveling in Mexico, and she lives in the Czech Republic. And I go visit her, or she comes to me. Nice. We move to New York together. We move to Mexico together. So I feel like I'm really lucky that I have that. But it is really hard, especially when you get older. Like I miss my friends and I want to go see them. And my family as well. They're not as avid travelers, you could say.
Yes.
But especially now that I'm considering like moving to Dubai, being so far away from them, I'm hoping that I can like pull them over here.
Yeah, for sure. It's such a it's like a family friendly place. Yeah. It's a Muslim country. It's clean. It's safe. Like I love living in Dubai. I've been living here for like 18 years.
Yeah. Crazy.
And when my parents said like, are you planning to, do you want to go somewhere? Like, do you want to go to a university, do your master's, something like that? I'm like, no, I just want to stay in UAE. Like I don't want to leave.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like that. Like once they come, they don't want to leave.
Exactly.
And sometimes don't leave.
It's like a bubble.
Yeah, that's
it's
what they
say. Too safe
say.
And everything.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So when it comes to work, like your travel club that you have and the content that you create, do you do it all by yourself? Do you have a team of people to help you? How does that go?
I mainly do everything by myself, especially since I was traveling. Like that year when I started posting, again, like the main thing was like, I just want to have fun and travel and not have to think about work. Like I was really lucky in the sense that I saved money and could afford to do that.
Exactly.
But my main purpose was like living out those dreams, going to go do the things that I wanted to do. And so it was really hard to have any help. And I almost didn't feel like I needed it because I was so excited to share what I was doing. And now I think like 1 month ago, I hired a virtual assistant just to help with admin because I have a totally new business venture. But otherwise, I do everything myself. But man, I wish I would have someone to like get my content for me.
Yes.
I feel like I get way better content sometimes. But yeah, right now I do everything alone and it's exhausting.
Wow.
But
I mean,
fun.
It's still the first year, you're still growing. I think at some point you will need to outsource maybe the content creation, all of that. Is there any particular travel content creator that inspired you to take this leap of faith, or was there someone you still look up to maybe for inspiration? Like, are there any content creators that you like?
Oh man, there's definitely a lot. I have to think about them. There is this one fun account that I really enjoy. I don't know if you know them, Claire and Peter.
I'm not sure. I don't think I know.
Okay, there are two American couple that quit their job, and they create very authentic, raw, funny content. And we both quit our jobs around the same time. And I remember talking to them about it. And once I saw them do it, and just kind of, I think in the US we have more of trouble like leaving our jobs, and like we don't travel as much maybe as compared to other countries. And so it seemed like a bigger deal. And so I really liked having people who were from like the same country and left behind like, you know, the golden cuffs and the golden opportunity. And so I really like their content because it's so funny.
You can relate to them as well.
Yes. But it's so funny and it's unlike any other travel content.
Okay, nice.
Like, yeah, you should have to check it out, I think.
For sure.
So it wasn't really about like the top hotels you need to stay at, but more of like the experience,
hidden
what
gems,
you learn,
unique things.
Yeah. So I really liked that. But there are a bunch of accounts that I like. I like Ilona. She's actually based out of here now. I think she's from New York.
Yes, I think. Yes, I've seen her. She was in Japan recently.
Yes.
I love the Japan content.
Yes.
Have you ever been to Japan?
No, it's on my list.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I need to go like South Korea, Japan, all these places. It looks so amazing.
South Korea is amazing. I spent a month there. Yeah.
How was the food there?
Amazing.
Is it easy to find like halal food in these places as well?
Actually South Korea, like the tourism board has a whole like section on their website dedicated to halal food and like Muslim friendly travel.
Nice.
It might need to be updated, but I did use that a couple of times. But it can be tricky because of the language barrier, but
that's true.
You manage. There's plenty
I think
of
Google
options
Translate
there.
helps.
Yeah.
When I was in Turkey and we were like trying to communicate with this taxi driver, like he could not understand a word of English. So we were just on Google Translate the whole time, and we had like a full-on conversation using that. It was so funny.
There's so much tech for that. So I feel like it doesn't really have to be a barrier anymore because you can find some way to communicate.
Exactly. Are there any apps that you would recommend for people who are traveling, or any tips that you have?
Yeah, definitely Google Translate. I would say maps.me, which is a map like app that you can download in advance. So it's offline and you can still use it if you don't have service or anything. I do like that one. I mean, I like Duolingo. I prefer to learn like a few words of the country that I'm visiting, like their local language. I think it helps me just really integrate myself, but it also really makes the locals happy that you've like learned and
you can connect a little bit.
Exactly.
You're trying.
So like a language app. I also take lessons from preply.com. I don't think they have an app, but I do like the language aspect.
Nice.
And a currency exchange converter, because I never know.
Yes,
I get confused, and sometimes I spend way more because I'm like, oh, it's only like 3 something, but it's actually like
because it
times.
Depends on the days as well, right?
Yeah.
Like it keeps fluctuating. Sometimes I think even Google is not right. I'm not sure though. So to have an app to do that is much better.
Yeah, exactly. I just have it because if I don't have spotty internet, you can just use the app.
Exactly. And what would be your tips for girls to go solo traveling? How to be safe? Like, I'm sure with your experiences, you learn along the way, but what have been like your top lessons that you would like to share with people?
Yeah, I feel like that's such an important question, and something that even if you're prepared, like you just never know. But I do like to be as prepared as I can be. And I think it comes with a lot of experience and being quite independent and getting comfortable and knowing like what my boundaries and limits are. But like the obvious things, like having street smarts, like not going out at night, not doing anything that you wouldn't do at home. For me, I always have a portable battery charger because I never want my phone to be dead, because it's kind of like your lifeline if you're the only person there. I do like to share my location with my family, like on my iPhone, like for Find My Friends, like they always know.
Like a live location?
Yes, exactly. Perfect. And then if I get into like an Uber, I always share my location too on the app, because you can share your ride, like this is the car you got into and whatnot. I think I always provide an itinerary if I can to my family and friends.
Yes.
Of like where I'll be, where I'm going to be, like my flights and whatnot. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going to be, so that's a little bit tricky. I never ever post like live location on social media.
Agree. Especially like where you're staying, your hotel.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Even if you don't put the name, people sometimes know. I've had multiple times where like, is that the Saudi airport or something? Or is like this hotel? And I'm like, how did you know that it's just the ceiling? So
I
don't
get
ever
it.
do that.
Okay. That's a good point, honestly. I think, yeah, to be safe, because social media has no boundaries. Your
Yeah.
pictures, your stories, everything is going all over the world.
Exactly. So I never do that, which is probably why nobody ever knows where I am, because I'm always posting later grams
Yes.
and people are like, wait, are you here? And I'm like, no, this is from like last year.
Even when I reached out to you, I'm like, is she in Dubai or is she like somewhere else, but she's posting from Dubai? But yeah, you're going to be here for a while, which is good. So
Yeah.
we can keep meeting as well.
Yeah.
And for you, do you think, what are like some of your long-term goals? Or, I'm going to ask a very job interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I honestly don't know. The past 5 years have been so different. I think I've had 4 different jobs doing 4 completely different things in
Wow.
complete different industries. I've obviously traveled a bunch, and I've properly lived in like 3 different cities or countries. I would love for Dose of Travel Club to take off and kind of be the travel community for South Asians, to inspire them to go outside of their comfort zone, but also to help them see the world like I have. So I really feel like that's my baby. And then I would like to continue making travel content and working with travel brands to get more South Asian representation in the industry, and talking about more of the deeper lessons that you learn from travel. Like, everyone knows the great hotels you can go to, the luxury things that you can do, but travel honestly has been like a form of therapy, but also just like education that I haven't had. And I just feel like everyone needs to have that experience for like cultural competency, emotional intelligence, like empathy. And it really just has changed how I am as a person, and it's given me so much more confidence. It's like the ultimate like personal development hack, honestly.
Yeah. It also depends on people. So for example, I think you are more of an extrovert. Like when you travel, you find it easier to talk to people as well. Some people can be a bit introverted, but I think even introverts, when they start traveling, you will be forced to communicate to people. Maybe that can help you, and as you said, the personal development thing.
True.
So I think that really helps, and it's the best form of therapy.
I honestly think so. And I think I'm actually an introvert, to be honest.
Really? Are you
Or
like a
maybe an
mix?
ambivert.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I just know introvert and extrovert.
So I was an extrovert before COVID. I took the Myers-Briggs test again after
interesting.
COVID, and it said I was more introverted. Maybe it was all that solo travel.
Maybe. But now, do you, like, if you had a choice to either travel with like a group of friends or do a solo travel, which one would you prefer? Like, is it more liberating to go solo or with more fun with friends?
I like both. I think they're 2 different experiences. I like that if I go alone, I can just do it like tomorrow. I don't need to wait on anyone. I don't need to
that's
plan. So I feel like I'm able to execute that one a lot faster. And so I enjoy that because it doesn't take the whole level of planning.
I've never gone on a solo trip, by the way.
You
I always
have
go with my
to.
friends because I feel like it's a big risk. I'm not much of a risk taker, but this conversation has inspired me to start that. And I think it's done that for a lot of Southeast Asian women as well.
I hope so.
That's your whole goal, right?
Yeah.
But what would be like your one message to them to like inspire them to get out of their comfort zone?
Start small. I feel like there's like this whole solo date era on social media, and I totally like that. I feel like that's kind of how I
love that.
started to be able to do this. But you don't have to like go to another country or like full send to somewhere that makes you completely uncomfortable and they don't speak the same language.
Exactly.
Like, do it in your own like city. I've noticed that in Dubai, I don't see as many people going out to like do things alone, like eating or dining out alone.
Very less.
And I do it all the time and I love it. And even my friends here are like, wait, you just go alone? I remember we were walking in Palm Jumeirah and my friend was like, oh, look at him eating alone. And I was like, what do you mean? I do that all the time. Do people go, oh, like I love doing it.
I can't eat alone, by the way. I've started doing it a few times, but I still get a bit conscious. I'm like, oh, I'm alone. Like, you feel like the whole world's watching you, but no one really gives a shit. Honestly,
no one gives a
true.
shit. And you shouldn't give a shit either. I think it's so fun. I get to eat at my own pace, listen to my music, podcast, like whatever.
Spend time with yourself.
Yeah.
Like reflect a little bit.
Exactly. I always bring a journal or something to do also.
Okay, that's nice.
But yeah, take yourself out to eat or go do something alone, like a museum date or something. I feel like that is the best way, or a staycation or like a road trip in your own country before you go. Just get comfortable with yourself to like understand, like trust your intuition. I think that's a big thing. Once you feel like you get that and your gut instinct, then you can kind of go somewhere else.
Okay, nice. So that's the end of our podcast, but we have 2 more sessions left. We're going to play a game of We're Not Really Strangers. I'm going to ask you some deep questions and let's see how you answer them. No pressure. So we have a couple of cards. Some of them are connection and reflection. Are you ready?
All right. I guess so. Hit me.
All right. In one word, describe how you feel right now.
Comfortable.
Okay, nice. Okay, have you surprised yourself recently? If yes, how?
Yeah, I didn't think I would find a place to live. Like I thought I'd be traveling still. And so the fact that I found so much comfort and have really enjoyed this slow period of being in one spot in Dubai really surprised me. I didn't think I could stay in one spot for this long.
That's good. Dubai feels like home now.
Yeah.
What do you think is your weakness?
I think, I have a lot.
It's okay. You can mention a lot. You don't have to stick to one.
I don't want to put all my weaknesses out there.
You don't want to expose yourself.
I would say that I'm quite hard on myself to a point that it, like interferes, like imposter syndrome. I mean, I definitely have it. And being someone who has changed careers so many times and now works like alone, I think there's no one to juggle that with. So I feel it more. Okay. So the imposter syndrome, it gets to me quite a bit.
But I think, every few weeks or months, just look at your own work and try to feel proud of it because honestly, It's a huge achievement.
That's why reflecting and journaling really helps.
Yeah, exactly. So do you like journal every day?
Yes, it's like my morning ritual.
I should start that. All right. So does your social media accurately reflect who you are?
I mean, I'm going to say yes, but I feel like this is ultimately up to people who follow me on social media and then meet me. So I think you have to answer that.
Honestly, it does, because when I met you, it didn't feel like the first time because we met for coffee like a few days ago. I felt like I already know you because of your stories, your reels, and plus the fact that you talk to the camera like the person sitting in front of you, which is an amazing thing to do. It doesn't come out naturally for some people, So that's good. I think it does reflect how you are. Okay, another question. When you're asked how you are, how often do you answer truthfully?
Oh, calling me out. Yeah, no, I never answer. I always just say, I'm good.
Okay.
Which is also so vague. Yeah, no.
Oh my God. What is a dream you had to let go of?
What is a dream I had to let go of?
I'm gonna grab some water.
Oh, this is really hard.
Maybe there's something. I think you're living your dream right now, but maybe there are few elements.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of things. I've always wanted to live in like Paris for a year.
Okay.
I thought I would do that. Another thing is because I worked in healthcare and I'm really passionate about healthcare, mainly like global health and social impact. I always wanted to do either the Peace Corps, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's like a US program, I think.
Okay.
Basically, you go for 2 years to go volunteer and go live somewhere else, working with like marginalized communities or Doctors Without Borders. I always thought I would do that if I was going to be a pharmacist. I don't know if that is something I will be able to do now that I've taken so much time away, but it was something I've always wanted to do. And I still am really passionate about like giving back, volunteer work, and finding a way to do that while I travel. So those two things I think came back to mind.
But I think you've done some volunteer work. I saw you went to Lebanon. Are there any other countries where you did volunteer work?
Lebanon was the biggest one. Jordan I did, but it wasn't like with like the same like in healthcare.
Okay.
I've done a lot of volunteer work, but it kind of differs like how I do it. I used to do it a lot in New York with the refugee population there on the border of Canada. And where else have I done it? I did it in Turkey for a short while. But yeah, the Lebanon one is like the most recent one that I did.
Nice. That's amazing. Like that's the best way to use your skills, and it also makes you feel more fulfilled, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I can use my skills while I'm traveling, which I feel like is the best of both worlds.
Okay, the next question. Are you missing anyone right now? Do you think they're missing you too? I'm telling you, this game is it's crazy. It's so fun when you play with your friends as well.
Yeah, no, it is a good game for sure. I would say my family and probably my youngest brother, and I'm gonna say no, he doesn't miss me. He's in college right now, so
He's too busy.
Yeah,
He's living
too
life.
busy.
All right, and that is the end of our We're Not Really Strangers.
Okay.
So yeah, less pressure for you now. We're gonna play a game. It's called the Bigger Picture Challenge.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you something, and you need to draw in like a minute.
Oh, you're gonna tell me what I have to draw?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, guys, I can't draw. Like
It's
I
okay.
just can't.
Everybody has just doodled, So no pressure.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to pass it
Easy
to
for
you.
you to say.
I'm just the one
Yeah.
giving the command.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Let me open the stopwatch so we can
Okay.
make sure you do it in a minute.
Yikes. Well, everyone's gonna know that I don't have a drawing ability at all.
You know how they say like doctors or pharmacists the way they write as well? Are
Yep.
you one of those
Yep.
people? Okay.
Thank God in New York you have to send an electronic prescription.
Oh, the best
so no
thing.
one has to deal with my chicken scratch.
All right. One thing that gives you the ultimate happiness.
Oh.
It can be like something small as well.
Okay.
Your ultimate source of happiness.
I feel like it's going to be very simple and people are going to be surprised. Right.
All right, let's see what it is. Let me try to guess. Oh my God, coffee? Why aren't you drinking yours?
I need to. I've been eyeing it so much.
Have a sip, have a sip. Okay, for sure.
I love coffee.
What kind of coffee do you have? Like iced or
I like
hot?
a hot, like flat white, but lavender lattes are like my favorite and I can't find them everywhere. But that is one thing I do as a solo traveler. Going to a coffee shop is so easy
Nice.
and I need coffee every single day. So now I'm going to have my coffee because I'm talking about it so much.
So
Okay.
before we wrap up this podcast, I just remembered like one thing that's so important to talk about. I've seen on your page, you're posting a lot for Gaza and, like Palestine and everything. How important do you think it is for influencers to do it and for influencers to, like when they get collaboration requests to think about the brands that they're going to work with? I think it has added like an extra responsibility to us and to be more careful. What would you like to say about that?
Yeah. I honestly just don't see how you couldn't post about it if you
Yeah.
have a platform and you use it to influence people, or to create content. This is like a humanitarian like problem. Like this affects everyone, no matter like your race, ethnicity, religion, where you're from. And so I think it should be everyone's duty to talk about things like that, regardless if it fits your niche or not.
Exactly.
But I think if you have a voice, you should use it. And even if you aren't super educated on the problem, like I feel like that is what a lot of people have been saying is like, I don't know.
Yeah,
what
I don't
should
know
be
enough.
saying. But you know enough to know that it's like what is going on and that it's wrong. And so if you were to do it for any other cause, I feel like you should be able to do it for this.
For sure.
And so for me, it was a non-negotiable, but it has really changed how I view brands and brand deals. But I'm sure it's also changed for them because I noticed that there have been some brand deals that I've lost because of that.
Because of posting and all
Yeah,
of that.
and I've
Okay.
also done a lot of podcasts in between, and people have specifically asked me not to bring up my views. So I've noticed how that has changed. But I think, I don't know if you saw, but there are so many people who are risking their lives, like the American.
Yes. He set himself on fire.
Yeah. To send a message. And
Exactly.
I think if someone has that strong of a message to send, I think we can afford to
Use
post a
our
story
platforms for
and
the
use our
right
platform.
cause. And when people say that we're not educated enough, it's never too late. Like get educated, and you don't even need a lot of education to know that what's going on is wrong. Like
Exactly.
it's very simple, it's very
It's not that
straightforward.
complicated.
And it has changed my perspective on life. It has changed my perspective with everything because I'm like, if no one's standing up for them, like there's no hope for any of us.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been a tough time, like the last few
Yeah.
months.
And for us to like just see it on social media, but when you think about the people experiencing it, like Bisan, the girl who has been posting
Yeah.
since day one, it has really affected her life. And there are millions of like that girl is just someone we're seeing on social media. There are like hundreds or thousands of other people as well.
With stories we don't know.
Exactly. But it's great to see influencers. Like support that so much, like people who are posting, and let's just pray for things to get better. And
Yes.
we'll wrap up the podcast. Thank you so much, Nabila, for coming and having this conversation. And I just wanted to say, if you like this video, do comment down what your favorite part was. If you're going to start content creation, if Nabila has inspired you to travel, to solo travel, get out of your comfort zone, let us know your favorite part, and subscribe to the channel and follow her on Instagram, Dose of Travel. I will put it in the description as well. I'll put the link so you can see more of her experiences and travel vlogs. See you on the next one.